She cheated mentally after 5 years together, and I found out just before our wedding day. 5 years. That's how long Lauren and I had been together. 5 years of birthdays, anniversaries, lazy Sundays, and late-night conversations about absolutely nothing. 5 years of me pretending I hated reality TV, while secretly knowing every contestant's backstory just to keep up with her rants. 5 years of her rolling her eyes at my obsession with 90s cartoons and me teasing her about her ridiculous coffee order. 4 pumps of vanilla, 2 shots of espresso, oat milk, and a drizzle of caramel. 5 years of love. And now, I was sitting in my car, staring at the engagement ring on my finger, wondering if I had been a complete idiot to believe we were solid. We met at a housewarming party, the kind of overcrowded, humid apartment gathering where everyone is either sweating or pretending they're not. I had been dragged there by my best friend, Marcus, who swore I needed to get out more. Lauren had come with her best friend, Tessa, the self-proclaimed life of the party. We ended up next to each other at the makeshift bar, a cluttered countertop stacked with half-empty liquor bottles. Some guy tried handing us IPAs, and at the exact same time, we both cringed. "God, no," we said, looked at each other, shared an amused smirk, and just like that, we clicked. That night, we talked for hours about everything: bad drinks, old cartoons, and what we'd do if we won the lottery. Her answer, travel the world. Mine, buy a ranch and rescue dogs. After that, we were inseparable. Dating felt easy, natural. There was no overanalyzing texts, no power games. It was just us. After 1 year, we officially became a couple. After 2 years, we moved in together. By year 3, we adopted Benny, the high-energy rescue dog she swore completed our little family. And by year 5, I knew I wanted to marry her. Our engagement wasn't dramatic. No skywriting, no flash mobs. Just a quiet Saturday morning hike at our favorite lookout point. I had planned a speech, something heartfelt about how much I loved her, but when I pulled out the ring, all I could get out was, "Marry me." She didn't hesitate. She just smiled and said, "Yes." That was last summer. We started planning the wedding immediately. Well, she started planning. I mostly nodded and gave the occasional, "Whatever you want, babe," when asked about flower arrangements and seating charts. The date was set for October, and everything was falling into place. Or so I thought. Looking back, I should have noticed the signs. They started creeping in 3 months ago. At first, it was subtle. Whenever I brought up the wedding, Lauren would hesitate before responding. Nothing huge, just a half-second pause before nodding or changing the subject. I ignored it. Then came the passive comments. "Do we really need to invite all these people? It's a lot of money for just 1 day." Or, "Are we sure we want a big wedding?" Again, I brushed it off. Budget concerns maybe. Stress. It happens. Then came the late replies to my texts about wedding plans. I'd send a list of caterers, and hours later I'd get a one-word response. "Sure." I convinced myself she was just busy. She started spending more time with Tessa, going out more, staying out later. It was normal, right? She needed her girl time. Except when she came home, she was distant, less affectionate, always checking her phone. I told myself it was nothing. Until last Friday. The dinner that changed everything. Marcus had suggested I do something special for Lauren, something to shake off the stress, remind us why we were getting married in the first place. So I booked a table at Venzo, an Italian place she had been dying to try. I even stocked the fridge with her favorite oat milk caramel drink, thinking she'd appreciate the small gesture. But from the moment we sat down, I felt it. Lauren was distracted, barely engaging in conversation. She kept glancing at her phone, smiling at something, or someone. Halfway through dinner, I brought up the honeymoon plans, trying to pull her back into excitement. That's when she hit me with it. "So I don't know if I'm ready for all this. Not just the honeymoon, the wedding, the marriage." 5 years together, 8 months engaged, and now she wasn't sure. She mentioned Tessa's stories about bad marriages, about how things changed after the honeymoon phase. Then she brought up her parents' divorce, saying she had been thinking a lot about whether we were making a mistake. I barely touched my food after that. The car ride home was silent. At our apartment, I asked if she wanted to talk. She said she needed time to think, then grabbed a blanket, curled up on the couch, and fell asleep while I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. The next morning, she barely looked at me. She mumbled something about meeting Tessa and some friends for drinks at Duffy's sports bar. Fine, whatever. I stayed home, numbly scrolling through my phone, until I got a text from Jake, one of Lauren's coworkers. "Hey man, you okay? Me? Cha, why?" A few seconds later, my phone rang. Jake's voice was hesitant. "I wasn't sure if I should tell you, but things got weird at the bar tonight." I braced myself. "Weird how?" Jake sighed. "Oh, they were teasing Lauren about the wedding. Someone asked if she was ready to be with one guy forever, and she laughed and said, 'If Daniel were more handsome and richer, I'd be excited to marry him.'" I felt numb. Are you sure she said that? Dude, a bunch of us heard it. Some people called her out, but she just brushed it off as a joke. A joke. A fucking joke. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. When I finally walked inside, she was passed out on the couch, completely oblivious to the damage she had just done. I stood there, staring at her. The woman I had planned to spend my life with, the woman I had trusted more than anyone. And for the first time in 5 years, I didn't recognize her. The worst part? This morning her mom called me in tears, saying there was something I needed to know, and if I thought last night was bad, I had no idea what was coming next. I didn't sleep that night after the way Lauren dropped that bomb at dinner, and I don't know if I'm ready for all this. There was no way I could. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of her slow, even breathing from the couch, like nothing had happened, like she had just shattered 5 years of certainty in a single sentence. I replayed our entire relationship in my head, searching for the moment when things changed, because they had changed. I could feel it. The late replies, the hesitation when we talked about the wedding, the growing distance between us. I had convinced myself it was stress, wedding planning fatigue, but now I wasn't so sure. By the time morning rolled around, I was exhausted, but still too wired to sleep. I got up, made coffee, and waited for Lauren to wake up. I was ready to talk, to really talk, to figure out what was happening to us, but instead, she just brushed past me, barely acknowledging my existence. "Morning," she said. That was it. No apology, no explanation, just in mourning. Then she mentioned something about meeting up with Tessa and some work friends for drinks at Duffy's sports bar. I wanted to ask, are we going to talk about last night? About the fact that you just admitted you might not even want to marry me? But I didn't. I just nodded and let her go. Because maybe I didn't want the answer. Maybe I already knew. Lauren had been gone for about 3 hours when I got the text from Jake, one of her co-workers I had met a couple of times at work events. "Hey man, you okay?" That was weird. Me? Yeah, why? A few seconds later my phone rang. I picked up, and the second I heard Jake's hesitant tone my stomach sank. "Oh look, I wasn't sure if I should tell you this, but things got weird at the bar tonight." "Weird how?" He sighed. "Some of the girls were teasing Lauren about the wedding, asking if she was really ready to settle down." He hesitated. She laughed and said, "If Daniel were more handsome and richer, I'd be excited to marry him." Silence. I couldn't breathe. "Are you sure she said that?" "Dude, a bunch of us heard it. Some people even called her out, but she just waved it off as a joke." A joke. That was her excuse. I don't even remember hanging up. All I remember is sitting in my car, gripping the steering wheel, feeling like the ground had disappeared from under me. I had given her everything. 5 years, my love, my trust, my future. And that's what I got in return. I should have walked away that night. I should have left. Instead, I drove home, and when I walked in, she was passed out on the couch like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just publicly humiliated me in front of all her friends, like she hadn't just broken everything. I stood there, staring at her, and for the first time, I felt nothing. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee and bacon. Lauren's standard apology breakfast. I walked into the kitchen, and there she was, acting like everything was fine, like we hadn't had the worst night of our relationship, like she hadn't laughed about my looks and my bank account in front of her friends. She smiled at me, like she wasn't the reason I had spent the entire night questioning my worth. "Hey, I made breakfast." I didn't sit down. I didn't say anything. I just stared at her, waiting. Finally, she sighed. "And oh, Jake probably called you." So she knew. She knew what she did, and yet she still went to sleep, still woke up like nothing was wrong. I crossed my arms. "Yeah, he did." "Want to explain?" Lauren bit her lip, looking guilty for about half a second before she launched into her excuse. "It was just a stupid joke, Daniel. We were drinking, and everyone was giving me a hard time about the wedding. I said something dumb to shut them up. I didn't mean it." And I stared at her. "Oh, you didn't mean it." She groaned, already defensive. "Come on, you know what I meant." I felt something snap inside me. "Actually, I don't. So why don't you explain it to me?" She folded her arms across her chest like she was the one who had been wronged. "Daniel, you're overreacting. I was drunk. It wasn't serious." I let out a hollow laugh. "All right, so you accidentally insulted me in front of all your friends. You accidentally joked about how I'm not good enough for you." She rolled her eyes. "And you're twisting my words." "Oh no, Lauren, I'm finally hearing them clearly." Her face softened a little then, like she realized she had pushed too far. She stepped closer. "Abe, you know I love you. I just got caught up in the moment. I wasn't thinking." I took a step back. "That's the problem, Lauren. It was easy for you to say. That's what's scaring me the most." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away, and for the first time I saw it, the flash of panic in her eyes. Because I wasn't just mad, I was done. I didn't say anything else. I just turned around, grabbed my car keys, and walked out. I didn't even know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay. I ended up at my brother Jason's apartment. He took one look at me, opened the door wider, and said, "She screwed up, didn't she?" I let out a shaky breath. "Yeah, she did." He handed me a beer. "You want to talk about it?" I shook my head. "Not yet." And for the first time in 5 years, I felt relief, like I had finally stopped trying to hold on to something that wasn't there anymore. I wasn't ready to end things yet, not officially, not until I knew the full truth, because something in my gut told me that this wasn't the worst of it. And I was right. The next morning, I got a call from Diane, Lauren's mom. She was crying, and she said there was something I needed to know, something that would change everything. I sat in my brother Jason's apartment, staring at my phone. The screen was still lit up from the last call. Diane, Lauren's mom, had been crying. Really crying. Not the polite, sniffly crying people do when they feel bad about something, but the kind of crying that makes words come out broken. "Daniel, there's something you need to know." I hadn't even had time to process the last 24 hours. Lauren's confession of doubt at dinner, the humiliation at the bar, her half-assed apology over eggs and bacon, like that could somehow undo what she had said, and now her mother was calling me in tears. Something was very, very wrong. I took a deep breath and called her back. She picked up immediately. "Daniel." Her voice was shaky, like she had been waiting by the phone, hoping I'd call her back. "Diane, what's going on?" And she let out a trembling sigh. "I didn't want to say anything until Lauren told you herself, but now..." "Now what?" My voice was sharp. I didn't have patience for vague dramatics. "Oh, now I don't think she will." I sat up straighter. "Tell me what?" A pause, and then, "There's someone else." The words hit me like a hammer to the chest. I felt my stomach drop, my throat go dry. "Who?" Diane hesitated. "His name is Adam. He works with her." I clenched my jaw. Adam. I knew that name. I had heard it before, casually dropped in conversations. Lauren had mentioned him in passing. Nothing that ever set off alarms. Just Adam came up with a great idea today, or Tatum's so funny you'd like him. I didn't like him now. "Are you telling me Lauren cheated?" My voice was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that comes right before the storm. Diane sniffled. No, I don't think so." Another hesitation. "She told me she's been talking to him a lot. She said she feels something for him, and she's confused about her feelings for you." I let out a slow breath, gripping my phone so tightly I thought it might crack. Confused. That word made my blood boil. We were engaged. We had a wedding planned. She was supposed to be my wife, and now she was confused. Diane's voice softened. "Daniel, I know this isn't what you want to hear, but I didn't want you walking into this blind. I love you like a son, and if Lauren isn't being honest with you, then I have to be." I closed my eyes for a long moment, trying to suppress the rage building in my chest. "Does she know you're telling me this?" Another pause. "Oh, no, of course not." I swallowed hard. "Thank you, Diane, for telling me." She exhaled, like she had been holding her breath. "I just don't want you getting hurt more than you already have. I was already hurt, but now I was angry." I drove back to the apartment, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. By the time I parked outside our building, I was vibrating with adrenaline. She had been lying to me. She had been pulling away, spending more time with Tessa, making snide little comments about the wedding, and the entire time, she had been developing feelings for another man. Lauren wasn't confused. She was waiting for a better option. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, like she didn't have a care in the world, like she hadn't completely wrecked me. She looked up, startled by the fury on my face. "Daniel, what's wrong?" I didn't answer immediately. I just stared at her, and then I said, "Osh, how long have you had feelings for Adam?" The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might pass out. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. And that silence, that was my answer. I let out a humorless laugh, shaking my head. "Wow, Daniel, He lied to me." My voice was eerily calm. "He sat across from me last night and let me believe your doubts were just pre-wedding jitters. You let me think I was the problem, that maybe I wasn't doing enough. But the entire time you were thinking about someone else." She stood up quickly. "I didn't cheat on you. That's not the point, Lauren." My voice was sharp. "So you let yourself fall for another guy while you were engaged to me." She flinched. "And I didn't mean for it to happen." Yeah. I let out a bitter chuckle. "So well, I didn't mean to waste 5 years of my life on someone who would throw it away for a guy she just met, but here we are." Tears welled in her eyes. Daniel, I love you. I got scared. Scared of what? Of choosing the wrong person? I took a step back, letting that sink in. 5 years and she was still wondering if I was the wrong person. I nodded slowly. Okay. She blinked. What? Okay. I grabbed my jacket and my car keys. And then let me make the decision easier for you. Her eyes widened. Daniel, wait, no. I cut her off, voice cold. I'm done waiting for you to decide if I'm good enough. I'm done being your safe option. If you're confused, then be confused, but don't expect me to stick around while you figure it out. She reached for me, but I stepped back. For the first time in 5 years, I felt completely, utterly done. Lauren had been my world, but I wasn't hers, and I deserved to be somebody's first choice. I spent the night at Jason's again. I expected to feel grief, but mostly I just felt relief. I was tired of fighting for someone who wasn't fighting for me. Lauren texted me that night, called, left voicemails. I ignored them all. Then, the next morning, I got another text. Not from Lauren, from Adam. Daniel, I know you don't know me well, but can we talk? There's something I think you should know. I stared at my phone. What else could there possibly be? And why would the other guy want to tell me? I took a deep breath and typed out a response. Where and when? Because if I was going to burn this bridge, I wanted to make sure I saw every single piece of it fall. I stared at the text for a long time. Adam, the guy Lauren had apparently developed feelings for, the one she had been thinking about while I was busy planning our wedding, and now he wanted to talk. I should have ignored it. I should have deleted the message and moved on, but I couldn't. Not yet. Because if there was still more to this story, I wanted to hear it from him, so I responded, where and when? Less than a minute later, my phone buzzed. Adam, to Coffee House on Lincoln, 10 a.m. tomorrow. The next morning, I pulled into the parking lot of Coffee House on Lincoln, gripping the steering wheel so hard my fingers ached. I wasn't sure what I was expecting. An apology, a confession, some desperate attempt to clear his conscience. Whatever it was, I just wanted the truth. I stepped inside and immediately spotted him. Adam was sitting in the back, nursing a cup of coffee, looking every bit as uncomfortable as I felt. His hair was slightly disheveled, and he looked like he hadn't slept much either. Good. I walked over, slid into the chair across from him, and folded my arms. Talk. Adam sighed, rubbing a hand down his face. I'm just going to get straight to it. I didn't know Lauren had feelings for me. I narrowed my eyes. You expect me to believe that? He nodded. Yeah, because it's the truth. I didn't say anything, just waited. He let out a breath. Look, man, I don't want to be involved in this. I have a girlfriend. We've been together for 3 years. I don't look at Lauren that way. Never have. That made me pause. What? He nodded again. Lauren and I work on the same project team. We talk, sure, but it's all work-related. Occasionally, we joke around, but nothing inappropriate. And then last week, Tessa started dropping comments about how Lauren and I make a good pair. Tessa, of course. I clenched my jaw. So Lauren made all this up in her head? Adam hesitated. Not exactly. I leaned forward. Explain. He sighed. I think Tessa had a hand in it. She kept pushing Lauren, telling her that she should be sure before settling down, that if she had any doubts, maybe it was a sign. And then she started bringing me up. I felt a sharp sting of betrayal. Lauren's doubts hadn't just appeared out of nowhere. They had been fed to her, nurtured by the people around her. And she let them grow. She let them get big enough to destroy us. Adam kept talking. Last Thursday, I overheard Tessa telling Lauren that she thought I was into her, that I was probably waiting for her to call off the wedding. I frowned. And what did Lauren say? His expression darkened. Since she said she didn't know how she felt, that she wasn't sure about marrying you, and then she asked if I had ever thought about her that way. My stomach twisted. I inhaled sharply, trying to keep my face neutral. And? He shook his head. And I told her no. I told her I was happy in my relationship and that she needed to figure out what she wanted before making any big decisions. But she looked lost, like she didn't know what to do, lost, like she had no idea that she was actively destroying the life we built together. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Are you telling me this? Adam ran a hand through his hair. Because I don't want you thinking I had anything to do with it. I didn't encourage her. I didn't lead her on. And I sure as hell don't want to be the reason your engagement falls apart. I studied him for a long moment, searching for any sign of deception. But there was nothing. He was telling the truth. Lauren had built this entire fantasy in her head, and she was willing to burn our relationship to the ground for it. I didn't say much after that. I thanked Adam for telling me, paid for my coffee, and walked out. By the time I got to my car, the weight of it all crashed down on me. The wedding was over. The life I had planned, gone. Lauren had spent the past few months wondering if I was the right choice. Well, I had spent the past few months thinking she was the only choice, and I was done being her backup plan. I pulled out my phone, scrolled down to Lauren's number, and hit call. She picked up on the second ring. Daniel. Her voice was small, hesitant, like she already knew. We're done. Silence. Daniel, don't. Just don't. My voice was sharp. You know why. You know exactly why. And I'm not going to spend another second of my life trying to convince you to choose me. She exhaled shakily, and I was just confused. Yeah, well, I'm not. Not anymore. A long pause. Then, in the quietest voice I had ever heard from her, and sorry. I squeezed my eyes shut. Too late, too damn late. So am I. And then I hung up. I wish I could say it was easy after that I woke up the next day feeling relieved and free, but grief doesn't work that way. Some mornings I woke up reaching for her before I remembered she wasn't there anymore. Some nights I stared at the engagement ring sitting in its box, wondering how the hell we got here. But then slowly, things got easier. I focused on me again. I went back to the gym. I reconnected with old friends. I booked a solo trip to a cabin upstate because why not? And 3 weeks later, I got a text from Diane. Shench, just wanted to check in on you. You deserve better. I hope you know that. I smiled. For the first time in a long time. I actually believed it. I did deserve better. And one day I'd find it. But for now, I was just going to enjoy being me again. And that was enough. The day after I ended things with Lauren, I woke up feeling nothing. No rage, no grief, no confusion, just emptiness. I had spent the past few months trying to hold on to a relationship that was already gone, bending over backward to prove to a woman who had stopped choosing me that I was worth it. Now, I didn't have to fight anymore. Now, it was just me. But there were still loose ends to tie up. The apartment, the wedding cancellations, our life together packed into boxes and divided like assets in a business deal. I didn't want to see her again. I had nothing left to say. But life doesn't let you walk away that cleanly, not when you've spent 5 years building a future with someone. And so, I found myself standing in our apartment one last time, waiting for her to come and collect her things. Waiting for the final goodbye. The apartment wasn't home anymore. The place was too quiet without her. For the past 3 days, I had been staying at my brother Jason's, giving Lauren time to pack while I figured out where the hell I was supposed to go from here. But I had to come back to make sure we divided everything properly. The apartment felt different now. Hell, the walls still held the ghosts of our life together. Her favorite blanket draped over the arm of the couch, the framed pictures we had taken on our anniversary still hanging on the wall. Except now, the pictures meant nothing. The memories meant nothing. I had taken down the engagement photos first. I couldn't look at them anymore. I was boxing up the last of my things when the door opened, and there she was, Lauren. For a second, we just stared at each other. She looked different. Her hair was tied back and her face was bare, no makeup, no careful presentation, just her. For years I had loved that face. For years I had built a future around that face. But now it just looked like a stranger's. She shifted awkwardly in the doorway, eyes darting to the half-packed boxes scattered across the apartment. Hey! I didn't answer. I just turned back to taping up a box, the sound of the ripping tape louder than any word she could have said. She sighed, stepping inside. I'll just grab my stuff. I nodded but didn't look at her. I didn't want to see her sadness. I didn't want to care. She moved around quietly, picking up things that belonged to her, her books, her clothes, the ridiculous collection of throw pillows she had insisted on buying. At some point she stopped in front of me, holding a framed picture, our first vacation together. Do you want to keep this? I glanced at it briefly. We were smiling, arms wrapped around each other on a beach in Florida, tan and happy, like we had forever ahead of us. I reached out, took the frame, and without hesitation dropped it into the trash. Her breath hitched. I didn't care. She was the one who threw us away first. We worked in silence for almost an hour until, finally, there was nothing left to divide. Lauren stood near the door, her bags packed, keys in her hand. I guess that's everything, she murmured. I nodded. Yeah. A long pause, and I don't know what to say. I let out a humorless laugh. That's a first. She flinched, looking down. I never meant to hurt you, I scoffed. Yeah, well, you did. She swallowed hard. And I loved you, Daniel. I finally looked at her then. Past tense. Loved, not love. Not anymore. I nodded slowly. I loved you too. And that was the last time I ever would. She bit her lip, eyes glassy, but she didn't cry. Maybe she'd used up all her tears before she even told me the truth. Or maybe, deep down, she knew she didn't have the right to cry, not after everything. Do you think we'll ever talk again? She asked. I met her gaze, steady, certain. No. She inhaled sharply but nodded. Okay. Another pause. And bye, Daniel. I didn't say it back. I just turned away, and a few seconds later, I heard the door close behind her. For the first time in 5 years, I was alone. And for the first time in 5 years, I felt free. I didn't cry. I didn't get drunk. I didn't sit in the dark listening to sad music like some cliché. I just existed. It was strange at first. The silence, the emptiness. But slowly, it became peace. I returned the wedding suit I never got to wear, canceled the honeymoon trip, and used part of the refund to book a solo trip instead. A week in a cabin by the mountains. Just me, my thoughts, and the quiet. I stopped waiting for a message that would never come. I stopped expecting to see her things around the apartment. I stopped missing her. And then, one day, I woke up and realized I was happy. 3 months after our final goodbye, I ran into Marcus at a bar. He slapped me on the back, grinning. "Damn, man, you look good." I smirked. "Yeah?" He nodded. "Yeah, like you dodged a bullet." I took a sip of my drink, thinking about it. A bullet, maybe. But more than that, I felt like I had finally woken up. Lauren had been my past, but now I was ready for the future. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of it. The first morning after Lauren left, I woke up expecting to feel something. Anger, regret, sadness, maybe even relief. Instead, I felt nothing. Just silence. No clatter of her getting ready in the morning. No faint hum of her singing off-key while making coffee. No familiar scent of vanilla and citrus from her shampoo lingering in the bathroom. Just me. For 5 years, I had shared this space with her. Now, it was just an apartment. 4 walls and a bunch of furniture that no longer held any meaning. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the half-empty room, waiting for some kind of overwhelming emotion to hit me. But all I felt was hollow. Not broken, not devastated, just empty. And maybe that was worse. I tried to distract myself. I went to work, answered emails, took calls, and pretended everything was normal. It wasn't. Because normal was checking my phone throughout the day, expecting a text from Lauren. Normal was having dinner with her after a long shift, talking about our days. Normal was planning a wedding, not canceling one. Now normal was walking into an apartment that felt too big, cooking for one, sleeping on one side of the bed out of habit, even though the other side would never be occupied again. Normal was undoing 5 years of muscle memory. The worst part was the small things, like reaching for my phone to send her something funny before remembering that we didn't do that anymore, or walking into the grocery store and automatically grabbing the brand of almond milk she liked before realizing I didn't need to buy it anymore, or seeing a couple at the park, sitting on a bench, laughing, and feeling that tiny, stupid pang of jealousy because that used to be us. The reminders were everywhere, and they were exhausting. I knew I should have just deleted her from everything, blocked her number, unfollowed, moved on. But some part of me still hesitated. Not because I wanted her back, not because I still had hope, but because I wasn't ready to face the finality of it. Lauren and I had been together for 5 years. That meant 5 years of tagged photos, inside jokes, and comments on each other's posts. Our relationship had been documented in likes, captions, and Instagram stories. And now, it was all just digital ghosts. I finally changed my relationship status a week after she left. The second I hit is single, my phone exploded with messages. Some from old friends checking in. Others from distant relatives who had no business, asking what happened. A couple from people I barely talked to, suddenly acting concerned when I knew damn well they were just fishing for gossip. And then there was Lauren's post. She didn't post about the breakup. She just posted a picture of a sunset with some vague-ass caption about how change is painful but necessary. It took everything in me not to roll my eyes, because I didn't need a poetic sunset post to remind me that she had changed. I had spent the last few months watching it happen in real time. Canceling a wedding isn't as easy as just making a phone call. There were deposits, vendors, emails, and a guest list of over 100 people who needed to be informed. I started with the venue. The woman on the phone was polite, apologizing for the loss of our deposit and offering her sympathies, like I had just experienced a death. In a way, maybe I had. Then came the calls to the florist, the DJ, the photographer. Every time I had to repeat the same sentence, "We're calling off the wedding." I could hear the pity in their voices. I hated it, but the worst call was to my mom. I had put it off for as long as possible, dreading the conversation. She answered on the second ring. "Oh, hey, sweetheart, how's everything going?" I exhaled slowly. "Oh, Mom, the wedding's off." Silence. Then Tono, honey. She didn't ask why. She didn't demand an explanation. She just knew. And somehow, that made it worse. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. She sighed. "You will be." Oh, and I wanted to believe that. I really did. Lauren still had a few things left at the apartment. I texted her, telling her to send someone to pick them up. She responded quickly, "Can we talk? Just for a minute." I stared at the message for a long time. A few weeks ago, I would have jumped at the chance. I would have driven to her, demanded explanations, asked her to tell me she had made a mistake. Now I just felt tired. There's nothing left to talk about. She didn't respond. That was the last time we ever texted. A few days later, Tessa came by to pick up the rest of her stuff. She didn't say much. I didn't either. It was over, and now it was time to start acting like it. For the first time in a long time, I started doing things just for me. I got back into running, something I had stopped doing because Lauren hated waking up early. I started planning a solo trip, something I never thought I'd do. I went to a bar with Marcus and let him introduce me to people, even though the idea of dating again still felt foreign. And little by little, I started feeling like myself again. I wasn't there yet, not completely, but every day, I woke up feeling a little less hollow, a little more whole. And for now, that was enough. Moving on doesn't happen all at once. I had told myself that once Lauren was gone, once her things were out of the apartment, once the wedding was officially canceled, I would feel free. That's not how it worked. Grief lingers, even when you know the person isn't right for you, even when they betrayed you, even when you were the one to walk away. Some days I felt fine, like I had dodged a bullet, like I had woken up from a bad dream. Other days I caught myself reaching for my phone to text her something stupid before remembering we didn't do that anymore. Even after all of it, part of me was still unlearning 5 years of habits. But time moves forward, even when you don't want it to. And before I knew it, 2 months had passed since the breakup. The last thing connecting Lauren and me was the apartment. My name was on the lease, but her name was still on a few of the utilities. We hadn't been in contact since the last text exchange, and I was hoping to keep it that way. Then, out of nowhere, Karina, Lauren's sister, reached out. "Hey, Daniel, I know this is random, but can we talk?" I hesitated. Karina and I had always gotten along. She had been more supportive of my relationship with Lauren than Lauren had been at the end, but I had no interest in rehashing old wounds. Still, curiosity won. "What's up?" A few minutes later, she called. "I know you don't want to hear from her," she said carefully. "And I wouldn't be asking if it wasn't important." I tensed. "Oh, Lauren sent you to talk to me?" "Oh, well, no," Karina said quickly. "She doesn't know I'm calling." That threw me off. I leaned back in my chair. "Okay, what's going on?" She hesitated. "She's not doing great." I bit back a sigh. Not my problem. But Karina kept talking. "Oh, look, I'm not saying you should forgive her. She messed up. Bad. I told her that. But she regrets it. Regret. That word used to mean something to me. Now it didn't change a thing. See, Karina, what do you want me to do with that information?" She sighed. "Nothing, I guess. I wanted you to know." Silence stretched between us. I finally spoke. "Saint she made her choice. And I made mine. And no," Karina's voice was quiet. I wish things had been different. So did I. But they weren't." I ended the call and stared at my phone for a long time. Then, for the first time in weeks, I went back through my photos, not to dwell, not to reminisce, but to delete. I wiped out everything, our vacations, our stupid selfies, the engagement pictures. I even deleted the playlist we had been making for the wedding. By the time I was done, it felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest. I hadn't realized how much space she was still taking up in my life, even after she was gone. Not anymore. One evening, Marcus and I grabbed drinks at a bar near his place. I hadn't told him about the conversation with Karina. I didn't want to get into it, but he must have sensed something because halfway through his beer he said, "I need a reset." I raised an eyebrow. "What does that mean?" He grinned. "You remember Kenzo, the guy I work with?" I nodded. Kenzo was an older guy, had been with Marcus's company for years, seemed decent. "Sonny has a cabin up north," Marcus continued. "Said I could use it any time. You should go." I frowned. "A cabin?" "Yeah, middle of nowhere. No Wi-Fi, no distractions. Just trees and a lake. Might be good for you." I considered it. For the past 2 months, I had been throwing myself into work, routines, distractions. Maybe it was time to do nothing, to just sit with myself. I took a sip of my drink. "Oh yeah, maybe I will." A week later, I packed a bag, threw it into my car, and drove 5 hours into the wilderness. By the time I reached the cabin, the sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the lake. It was peaceful. No texts, no emails, no reminders of my past life. Just me. The first night, I sat on the porch, staring at the water, and for the first time since everything fell apart, I let myself think about it without anger. Lauren had made a mistake. I had made a choice. And we weren't meant to be. It was as simple as that. The next morning, I woke up early and went for a run. Then I spent the day fishing. even though I was terrible at it. I read a book for the first time in months, and by the time the week was over, I felt lighter, like maybe, just maybe, I was ready to stop looking backward. On my last night at the cabin, I got one final message from Lauren. I hadn't blocked her. I hadn't needed to. We just hadn't spoken. But now, after 2 months of silence, she sent one last text. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're doing okay. That was it. No expectations, no long explanations, just an ending. I stared at it for a long time, then I deleted it. I didn't need closure from her. I had already given it to myself. The day I got back, I found myself at my usual coffee shop. I was waiting for my order when someone tapped my shoulder. I turned and saw a woman I hadn't met before. She smiled. "Today, I think you dropped this." She held up my keys. I hadn't even realized I had dropped them. I took them, returning the smile. "Thanks." She nodded, then hesitated before adding, "You look familiar." "Do you come here a lot?" I smirked. "Yeah." "You?" She laughed. "First time, actually. We talked for a few minutes, just small talk, nothing serious. But for the first time in a long time, I felt something. Not love, not a grand moment, but possibility. And for now, that was enough. It's strange how life moves forward, even when you're standing still. After everything, after the breakup, the anger, the grief, the solitude, I thought I would be stuck in that limbo forever. But time didn't stop for me, and eventually, neither did I. The woman from the coffee shop. Her name was Mia. It started as nothing, a simple exchange of words after she handed me my dropped keys. But sometimes, even the smallest interactions plant the seeds for something bigger. A week later, I ran into her again, same coffee shop. This time, she was ahead of me in line. She ordered some complicated espresso drink, turned around, and laughed when she saw me. "Oh, you again," I smirked. "Starting to think you're following me." She raised an eyebrow. "Pretty sure I was here first." I shrugged. "Details." The barista handed her drink over, and she stepped aside, but instead of leaving, she lingered. Then, to my surprise, she asked, "Want to sit?" I hesitated. I hadn't done this since Lauren. But then I thought, why not? And so, for the first time in months, I sat across from someone new. Not a date, not anything romantic, just a conversation. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was stuck in the past. Moving on isn't about replacing someone. It's about reclaiming yourself. I had spent 5 years as part of a couple, 5 years thinking in terms of we and us. But now I was learning how to be just me again. It was in the little things. Cooking meals without considering someone else's preferences, watching a movie because I wanted to watch it, not because I was compromising, taking an unplanned road trip just because I felt like it. I had been waiting for someone else to tell me that I was okay, that I was over it. But the truth is, healing isn't a destination, it's a process, and I was finally in the middle of it. 3 months after the breakup, I got a call from Karina. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. "Hey, Karina," she sighed. "Hey, Daniel, I know this is unexpected, but I figured you'd want to know. Lauren's moving." I blinked. "Moving?" "Yeah, she got a job offer in Seattle. She's leaving next month." For a second, I didn't know how to react. Then, to my own surprise, I said, "Good for her." And I meant it. Karina hesitated. She wanted to tell you herself, but I figured you probably didn't want to have that conversation." She was right, I didn't, because there was nothing left to say. I thanked Karina for letting me know, ended the call, and just sat with it. Lauren was leaving. The final string tying us together was about to be completely severed, and instead of feeling sad or angry or nostalgic, I felt free. Mia and I had run into each other a few more times at the coffee shop. Every time, we talked a little longer, laughed a little more. It was easy, uncomplicated. And one afternoon, as I was leaving, she called after me. "Hey, Daniel." I turned. "Yeah?" She hesitated, then smirked. "You know, if you ever want to grab coffee on purpose instead of by accident, let me know." A date. I hadn't thought about dating in months, but for some reason, with Mia, it didn't feel like some big dramatic step. It just felt like the next thing. So I smiled. "Yeah, I'd like that." And for the first time since everything fell apart, I felt like I was stepping into something new, something real, something mine. I won't lie and say that everything suddenly became perfect. There were still moments when I caught myself looking back, moments when I wondered how things could have gone differently. But those moments became fewer and fewer. And one day, without even realizing it, I stopped checking my phone, expecting to see Lauren's name. I stopped associating places with her. I stopped seeing my past as something I had to recover from and started seeing it as something that had simply shaped me. Because the truth is, we don't just move on from people, we move forward. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready.